Oh man, that scene you mentioned it cracked me up so much because he throws a shoe and he walks out of his house
Yeah, yeah,
barefoot, drives his car, walking across rubble. He gets, and I thought maybe it was just like they had forgotten about it, so maybe it would have been an error that maybe
yeah,
he has
yeah.
shoes when he enters the studio that he goes to.
Studio, yeah,
But
yeah,
no,
yeah.
he's not wearing shoes there either. He's just barefoot.
Zero F's given by this guy. He
Yeah,
just does what he wants.
exactly right. He does not give a shit. Yeah. But the other side of him is like so funny because he's such a
Oh my
coward as
god.
well.
Yes. Yeah. Like he constantly complains to his father, the second
Yeah.
or the second brother in the Anjootti family or something.
Yes.
But he never actually cracks it at Michael himself, who is the cause of all of his grievances. But he's
Yeah.
just so unimpressed by his father, thinks he's a coward,
Yeah.
but takes everything that Mammooty's character throws at him and doesn't really fight back until, joining
Yeah.
forces with everyone else. But, oh man, are we going to touch on the dance sequence? Because that had to be the most unforgettable part of this movie, potentially,
So.
right? That.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Day 54. I'm Amit and I'm joined by my Malayalam brother, Sunny.
Hey everyone, good to be back.
We're not Malayalam, just to let everyone know, to clear that up. But we're
We've
big
adopted
fans
it,
of
maybe. Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. Soon enough we'll be accepted.
It's the Malayalam community, yeah.
Yeah, man, we're talking about this epic movie, man. Bheeshma Parvam. Action, thriller, crime, gangster,
Badass fun.
Yeah, man. Like, taking us back, man. Taking us back to a genre I'd rarely see anymore. Like, this was all the rage, far out, back in the, Tarantino days, the Scorsese days.
Yeah.
Like back then, a lot of it seemed like there was a gangster movie coming out like every year, and they'd always be huge.
Yeah.
But man, taking us to somewhere we had not seen before. Have you seen much of this stuff before, or like even recent stuff, if any?
No, I can't think of like big kind of mobster films like this that had like a really big ensemble cast. Maybe Martin Scorsese's last film with De Niro and Al Pacino. I forget what it was called.
The Irishman.
The Irishman. Maybe that's kind of the last of the kind of big mafia films I'd seen, but this definitely feels like a throwback to maybe like early Scorsese and, Goodfellas and Tarantino with, Reservoir Dogs. And yeah. There's so much of that going on here. But you're right. Like in recent times, you don't see blockbuster mafia films like this, right? Like even The Irishman, not really a blockbuster. It was a quieter piece than this, probably.
No, I think it was more critically acclaimed from what I understand. But there was some. I mean, I've never seen that movie, but from what I've understood, it was more. There was some criticisms of that movie, and it was more something that people enjoyed. At home. Whereas speaking of this, before we get into this movie, this was a certified blockbuster. Like this movie,
100%
broke the box office apparently.
Yes.
I don't have the budget in front of me, but it made, I think, 110 to 115 crores. So I don't have the conversion in my head, but it sounds like a lot.
A commercial success. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's some. Sorry, before I get into the movie, like I was reading some trivia before. I'll just spit it up now. From IMDb, this is the first Malayalam movie released in 100% capacity theaters in Kerala after COVID hit, with a maximum number of shows. So it sold out.
Yeah, okay. This blew up.
It's the second fastest movie to hit 50 crore mark. It also holds a record for the highest grossing film in Kerala on the first weekend, 23 crores.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn,
so
man.
This was a huge hit, and
Unbelievable.
I mean, we're very familiar with this guy, and one of the reasons why it was a huge hit was because of the legend himself, Mammooty.
Yes. Oh man, he 100% made this film.
Oh man, could you thinking back at the times of even the movie like The Godfather, like could you, if you could think of someone that could replace him, this guy bought it, man. He was so great. And we'll talk a little bit about the other cast, but just Mammooty himself, man. What do you think about him?
Oh my God, man! Like I really feel like he might be my favorite Indian actor at this point in time. And I don't have a huge sample to work off, but I absolutely love this guy just because the presence he has on screen without saying a word is just so palpable, right? Like he enters a room and you immediately know he's the big dog, and he doesn't need to say a word. It's just the way he looks, just the way he carries himself. It just commands authority. Every time he's on screen, this guy's like the master of his craft. Every scene he's in, he steals and just has that like commanding presence, knows exactly what he needs to be doing, both as a character and as an actor in any scene. Dude, I absolutely loved him in this. There's so many big moments and small moments in this that I loved about him, but just absolutely stole the film. And I don't know, if there are big Mammootty fans out there, I don't think they could expect any more than what you get here, because you get the terrific acting, you also get the action as well. So like he ticks all of the boxes here.
I got so much respect for this guy, man. Like I think we talked about it in Rorschach. He's pretty old. He's up there, like in
71.
71, right? So he's up there in 71. He's accomplished everything he's had to in terms of the film industry. What's really left for him? But he still brings so much passion to all his projects, and he probably is a bit limited just from what he can do physically.
Of course.
Being 71, but that doesn't take away from anything at all. He's so great, and you're right. He brings so much presence. He has this voice, man. Like his voice has got to be one of the best voices.
A delight. Just
I don't know what it is. It's like this deep, but like really meaningful, powerful voice. It's like we talk about. There's famous voices that we know of in Hollywood, such as Morgan Freeman, David Attenborough, who have that same sort of deep voice, but he's right in the same category. Like I'm surprised he's not known more for his voice, or maybe he is.
It might be one of the things that make him so appealing, but this is. I mean, I think one of the things I really enjoy about both his performance in this and Rorschach is that he's able to play like this character who, is mostly stable, knows what he's doing, but he has this like maniacal, crazy aspect to him where he could just go unhinged at any moment. He doesn't, but you just like in the back of your mind, he's like, this guy, I don't know exactly what he's thinking. And he could cut loose at any moment. Yeah. And I think that's portrayed so well in this film, right? Like there are times when he's playing this character and you think that he's being he's like being a terrible guy with the way he's treating some of his family members, right? Yeah. And you kind of dislike him for the disrespect he's dealing with some of his brothers, their wives and their children. But kind of like in Rorschach, you understand at the end why he's doing what he's doing. Yeah. He's a guy who's got a plan. He's confident in what he's doing, and he's just so full of purpose and committed to creating this strong family that he'll just do whatever he wants. But that ability to play kind of a douchey character, but also a hero in a way, he just does that so well, man. Like such a layered performance here. He totes that line between being a badass, awesome guy with, oh, that's a bit mean what he just did, but there's a reason for it too. Just love it.
Yeah, I wonder, because he's got such a big backlog. Like, he must have, I don't know if this is something he's doing later in his career or not. I'd love to know if there is anyone listening to this. Like, what's his progression sort of been like? Because we're obviously huge fans, and I'd love to sort of see what variety he has. Like, has he just done like a slapstick comedy or something? Like, I'm sure he must have.
A rom-com?
A rom-com? Yeah. He's definitely got the range. So, I think we've seen a certain side of him, but you're right. Like, the performances in this, it's like a little bit unhinged, a little bit crazy. But at the same time, I guess you just want to watch him. That's what it feels like. You just want to watch him and what's he going to do. And like, even as he's just walking past, he's mastered the art of just, being on camera or something like that. I don't really know what else it is. He's just so natural.
Command of his body, his craft. Like every time he's on screen, he knows what he's doing. I think you have to give a degree of credit to the director as well, because aside from the fact that there's great acting, I think the director does a great job of creating the aura around the Michael character, right? As this scary, fearsome guy. Like it's even from the very first scenes where they're all waiting downstairs for him and he's just upstairs and they're all just like chit-chatting, a little bit scared, like fidgeting around one another. Others are like waiting for him, like they adore him and he's the hero. Others are like whispering to each other conspiratorially. But it's the film that creates that kind of like aura to him, right? Such that when he comes down the stairs, everyone's looking up. So like just the direction here is great in creating that mood as well of this guy is a little bit crazy, but he's the boss and he doesn't need to say a whole lot to portray that. So kudos to the director for helping like accentuate Mammooty's greatness already and presence.
Definitely. So director Amal Neerad. Obviously we haven't heard much of him, but he did a fantastic job in this movie. And you're right, because it is hand in hand. But I think Mammooty is such a big presence and such a, he's got so much creative control with who he is.
Yeah,
I think they're working hand in hand.
Totally.
I think he's probably not. He's definitely not an inexperienced actor, so he sort of knows. He probably helps. I'm sure a director, like, to get Mammooty in your movie would be almost like a dream, I would think, because you have somebody that knows how to make a blockbuster. It'll be most likely a blockbuster because you have him. But then, as we've seen so far, he's terrific. He takes it completely professionally. I've never saw him go out of character or lapse in any moment. And anything I've seen him in so far, he's not given one moment where I felt like he's off. Like he's so much in control. But you're right. Everything with the way they sort of portray him, and I want to touch on the music and sort of the looks a little bit too. But I'm sure we'll talk about them more. But man, ensemble cast, man. Obviously, we don't know too many, but hey, man, our friend, our good
old
friend,
mate, Shine
Tom Chacko. Oh man, oh man, I was pretty happy when I saw him.
Man, I mean, given I haven't watched a whole lot of films, when I see the similar faces, it makes me happy just because I can recognize it. But as soon as I saw his face, I knew we were going to be in for a hilarious, like, energetic, unhinged performance as well. Man. And that's exactly what he is this whole film.
He's manic. That's the word I had. He was just so fun. I mean, the first scene is him just snorting cocaine.
Just standing Shine Tom Chacko. I've talked about like maybe Mammooty's character being a bit unhinged, but this guy is the definition of unhinged. You never know what he's going to do at any point in time.
No, you really don't. He was honestly like, it's so important to have this character because Mammooty's a rock. Like every time he's on screen, like but like every time Tony Shine Chacko, Peter in the movie sort of is on screen, it's just like there's something going to be wild happening, and basically that's what it was. He was so crazy in this movie, and I enjoyed his performance so much because it was just I was never bored. It was never I was always wondering what's he going to do next, like what crazy things he's going to do next, and obviously some of them I never saw coming.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't know what to go for it.
I mean, like there are so many scenes where I just, as you're saying, you don't know what's coming. That scene when he's coming out of the shower and getting dressed and his wife is there doing her work, that something's going to happen, but you're like, what's he going to do? And then he looks at his shoe and complains about it not being polished well enough and then throws it at her and then walks out the door without any shoes at all. Just like, what are you doing, mate? Like, this is just a guy completely driven by ego and like arrogance and just like has no self-control or self-reflection. Like such a contrast to the Mammooty character as well, which works on many levels, I think, just to show, just what Mammooty's like, character's like, and what he's like. But, dude.
Oh, man, that scene you mentioned, it cracked me up so much because he throws a shoe and he walks out of his house barefoot, drives his car, walking across rubble. He gets, and I thought maybe it was just like they had forgotten about it, so maybe there would have been an error. That maybe he has shoes when he enters the studio that he goes to. He's not wearing shoes there either. He's just barefoot.
Zero F's given by this guy. He just does what he wants.
Exactly right. He does not give a shit. But the other side of him is like so funny because he's such a coward as well.
Yeah. Like he constantly complains to his father, the second or the second brother in the Anjootti family or something.
Yes.
But he never actually cracks it at Michael himself, who is the cause of all of his grievances. But he's just so unimpressed by his father, thinks he's a coward, but takes everything that Mammooty's character throws at him and doesn't really fight back until joining forces with everyone else. But oh man, are we going to touch on the dance sequence? Because that had to be the most unforgettable part of this movie, potentially, right? So. I never expected him to be showing another man how to dance in a sexy way. That was awkward to watch and hilarious too. But that was amazing. Like, not something I would have thought that Shine Tom Chacko would have done, but dude, that was so damn funny.
I was literally blown away by that scene. I could not for the life of me understand what was going on here.
I did not understand. And the scene stretched on for a minute longer than I expected, because he just kept doing that really sexy dance, and I was please stop doing this. This is making me awkward.
Yeah, but, on top of that, he keeps stopping the guy's ass. I was like, man, leave the poor guy alone. It was just.
He's terrified. But what is that? Is he a director of a film? Has the family just got so much money he can have these random side projects? I don't know.
He was a producer on the film, so he's throwing money at the movie. So that's sort of why everyone's sort of, they have to do what he says. The director, or I think even before that, the dancer says who chose this sloppy outfit, and then the director says the producer. And he goes silent. He's like, "Oh well, we have to do things for roles these days." But no,
so good.
That scene was
it's going to be imprinted in my mind for longer than I want it to be honest. But it might be worth it for just that scene.
Exactly. No, that scene was just insane.
But I also think that his character, despite being insane and all of that, I think he actually has a role to play in the plot. Because I contrast him with what's the brother of Army, the guy who gets killed, Ajas, I think.
Oh yeah,
the shop owner, the shop owner character. Yeah, him, right? Because there's a guy who just keeps his head down and does his work, runs the store, and that part of the family is the one that's bringing in all the money, right? They run the shop, they run the petrol station. And Michael, Mammooty's character, gives them more money because they're the ones doing a good job and keeping the family afloat. And he's just this very reasonable, practical guy, doesn't want to cause trouble. And, Shine Tom Chacko is just this unhinged guy who's wasting money, not doing anything for the family, doesn't reflect on his own behavior, doesn't understand why Michael's doing the stuff he is. And at the end of the day, it's, the Tom Shine Chacko character gets killed, and it's the Ajas guy who's most like Michael in his sense of duty. He gets to take over the family reins, right? He becomes the boss at the end after Michael retires or whatever. So I thought it's an interesting character study as well, in terms of what it means to be the head of this mafia family and what kind of skills you need. You can't just be this unhinged, crazy man. You need someone who's got a sense of duty, but who will also do what needs to be done to look after the family, which is Michael and that Ajas character.
No, definitely. I think they sort of getting into sort of the movie a little bit with sort of the first half and stuff like that. They really do a good job of sort of establishing a few things. Yeah. So no, that scene you mentioned about Ajas, basically, I think the way they show him to start with, it's in such great contrast to everybody else. That first scene is so important. In fact, I rewatched it just because I think it went over me at the start. When I rewatched it and I sort of, with the understanding of who these characters were, you sort of get it. You sort of see things a bit differently. At least that's what I was sort of getting. So essentially, the way they show him was, I think, at the start was the first scene with him is he was cooking fish for his wife and his mother.
Yes. Yeah.
The other men are basically shown as womanizers and not treating them very nice. Especially the other
property.
Jack.
Yeah.
Oh, the Martin character. Martin. Yeah,
the police dude, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he was they showed they're all sort of selfish. The politician, the church leader who's not really doing much, not paying back his debts. Yeah. So they really put him in contrast. But what I loved about that first initial scene was basically it sets up the dynamic of the characters so well. Like you mentioned it before, some of them are sort of bickering in between, conspiring. Some of them are not really content with what was going on with how the families run. What gives him all this power and all this stuff. And then other people are just looking at him like an actual god. Like, I think like when he walks out, Ajas is looking at him. He's looking up at him, like he's really worships this man.
Yes.
So I think it's just did a great job of setting up, and really the first hour, I think, like this movie. I don't know what you thought, but this movie took a while to really get into, the side of basically where they're trying to, conspire against him.
Yeah.
How did sort of the first half play out for you and stuff like that? Did you enjoy how it was going?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first half or the first 2/3 of this film are really the parts that stand out to me. It's less the action, but the character build up throughout the first half that really makes everything in the second half work or have some emotional resonance. But just following these characters, understanding what their motivations are and the dynamics between them and each other and them and Michael, and just understanding their circumstances, it invested me in this world so much. And they were all so well fleshed out that you are interested in each one of these new characters that gets introduced, because it's a big cast, and like you'd be forgiven for not keeping everyone's relationships in your head because it's a bit hard to follow. But just delving into these characters and doing such a good job with so little dialogue and just with looks as well, I was just completely mesmerized by the character dynamics of this. And it's probably the thing I would say about this film. It's not the action or the overarching plot that really got me into this film or what I will remember, because those are probably things you will have seen before. And there's not maybe a whole lot of creative flourishes here. But the way the characters are done, the way they're fleshed out and their motivations and aspirations and dreams are fleshed out, just so compelling. And you just are brought into this world from the start, man. So I loved that first 2/3 of this film.
No, it's really good. Like, I mean, it did get me a little worried because I hate to bring up every podcast, but exposition. Like, there was a lot of explaining. But
even in the first scene. God, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's why I watched it again, because I didn't really, I watched the first half again because I was like, I didn't really, at that time, I couldn't really pick it up. But sort of when I did, sort of the second time around, I understood sort of what was going on much better. So the thing is, it was so gripping. Like, that's the thing. Like, you really are invested in a lot of these characters. And I want to learn more. I want to find out what was going on. You're right. Like, I was losing track of who's who, what part of the family,
how they're related to one another.
And are you the brother, and are you the son, and are you the I started to lose track of that, and I think you're right. You can easily be forgiven if you watch it once and lose track of it. But overall, man, I really did at the end of the day enjoy sort of fleshing out these characters, because you really start to understand them, and then when sort of shit hits the fan, you really start to feel it much more.
Yeah.
It has a much more impact.
Totally. And can I also say, I think you made a comment earlier about how the women are treated in this film. And I think it's really interesting because while the women are not treated with respect in this film, I guess it's set in the 80s or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's in the past. But it doesn't mean that the female characters aren't given some room to breathe and fleshed out quite well, right? You have characters like Susan, one of the sisters, right? And you are one of Mammooty's sisters in the film. And, you get to see her life with this abusive husband, Martin, who's, a pretty terrible guy, all things considered. But you understand her dynamics with the Mammootty character, Michael. And, she stands up for herself and eventually leaves Martin and, goes away with her daughter and son elsewhere. So she's given some room to breathe. And then you have the love story between Army and Rachel, who is, I think, Susan's daughter, I think. And, Rachel's a pretty strong character as well. Like, she knows what she wants. She's the one who, talks to Michael to get his approval, right? When the family meets, it's not Army talking or another man. She just literally straight up says, Army and I are in love and we're going to get married no matter what. Like, she doesn't even ask her his opinion. She just says it out flat. And I feel like that's the first time anyone tells the Michael Mammootty character how it's going to be. And he just immediately understands the situation and says, yes, of course, that's fine. But she really is very firm. She also has a strong sense of justice. Like, when Army dies, she's like, we need to get revenge. It needs to be complete. And this is what I want. And, she's not a scared character. So I think even those female characters, whilst they're not treated well by the men in the family, I think there's some time given to flesh them out rather than just as purely side characters. So I appreciated that as well.
Yeah, no, there was. I also thought they were given some room to breathe as well. I think one other character I did enjoy was I don't know her name, and I don't really know how to find it out either because I don't know what her name is in the movie.
Yeah.
She was the one that had like a potential love interest in Mammooty. I
Oh,
think
Alice.
Oh,
Yeah.
Alice, yes. She's
Yes.
the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it was kind of tragic and sad to sort of see that sort of play out, but you got to see the side of Mammootty, which was,
A bit more
it was like he had
gentle and
lost.
caring.
Yeah, like it's like he's lost something, but he's not sort of given up. Like he makes up biryani and he has a nice conversation, and you can see that there
Yes.
was definitely
A deep,
something there, a deep bond. But just
that's right. A deep friendship that had obviously seen a lot between both of them, or they knew what each other had been through, essentially. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah, no, I did enjoy that. I also enjoyed the I can't remember. I don't know who she was, but the grandma that was watching Terminator.
What a classic scene. And I also think like it was a bit of like a bit of a shot. She's just like, if you had a machine gun, all this gangster stuff would be so much easier to take care of, which is kind of what I wondered as well. Like you're fighting Mammooty in a basement, just get a gun like that. You can't fight back.
So no, man, you can't. You can't bring a gun to a knife fight. That's
awful. That's rule number one. Can't do it.
Yeah. But no, about the first half. I guess before we get into the second half, I do want to talk a little bit about, and second half is sort of ramps up a lot with sort of the pacing and stuff like that, I feel. But before we jump around to that, man, like the look of this movie, I know we've seen a lot of Malayalam movies, and they're always really just production-wise fantastic, like through the roof, like 100%. They're masters in what they do. But I really like this this sort of aesthetic that they had going on this time.
Yeah.
Sort of a throwback to like as we said, sort of the 80s, 90s era.
Yeah.
Interesting for us because like we didn't grow up in Kerala or India. So I'm sure but watching this movie, like people our age, mid-30s, watching this movie, I'm sure this had references just laced throughout, whether it's like, the way the clothing they were wearing, the landline phones,
the cars they were driving,
the cars, yep. The cars are very, in those old Italian movies, they always used to show off like, what sort of old-fashioned Ferrari cars they had. So I think this was a little homage kind of thing to sort of, their own version with the Ambassador car, which is a nice-looking car.
Yeah.
But aside from that, just we talked about the direction a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about the music. Like, holy shit. Like,
oh, man.
This was, man. Like, I mean, there's a score that runs throughout the entire movie, I think. And it just sort of sets the tone and helps establish the atmosphere of the movie, basically. And, like, I was a huge fan of it. Like, we've seen some great Malayalam movies with great music. Like, I think Thalumala is still one of my favorite soundtracks.
So good.
Like,
yeah.
Still listen to that. But this one, in terms of its pure score, like just the music that plays throughout the movie.
Amazing.
So much for the movie, I thought.
And like it really almost feels like it sets a rhythm for the movie at times as well. Like it almost feels like it's a song that's a really long song that's playing out. Like that's how instrumental the music is in this. And like just the way they transition the different types of music. That main song, I don't know what it's called, but it's used in the fighting sequences. You immediately just like feel a rush of adrenaline watching that, and you just kind of sit back and you want to get your popcorn and just watch Mammooty go cray on these guys and just enjoy it. But it just adds so much to this film. And I think it's so brilliantly done. There's a musical number in this, the one when Army's shop opens up. That was just so lovely, man. In a film that is kind of, when we talk about cinematography and the colors, like most of the film is kind of this weird yellow, sepia, grayish kind of vibe. And that makes sense. We're dealing with the criminal underworld, right? We're dealing with gray, complex characters who are, not either good or bad in a clear sense. So that made sense. But then you had this moments of like light and color, like in that dance sequence, which is just so well done. And I don't know how people would feel about it, because it feels like such a change from the rest of the film, because it goes from really intense and tension-filled to this happy moment with the family, right? But it just shows these different sides to these characters, and they're all having fun, and I just loved seeing that. But the music, I've been listening to that throughout the day, actually, that one song, because it just like makes me want to dance. But I absolutely love that.
Which one is this?
This is the one where Army's like store is about to open, and then his brother is dancing and he's dancing. Rachel is dancing. And you know that something bad's going to happen after it, because like things are going a little too good for Army. But that sequence, because you got to see a different side of Ajas, because he's pretty uptight, keeps his head down. worried about his brother Army being a bit too reckless at times. And he lets loose and he's happy for his brother and he's, drinking and having fun and dancing. Such a beautiful scene, great song, and so good to see like different sides to these characters and the brightness on screen as well. Loved it.
No, that song, I don't know how to really say it, but I think it's Paradise. The translation of Paradise, like Paradise, I don't really know how to say it. But the Malayalam word for Paradise. Yeah, because it really is. And that song itself, oh my God, beautiful song. Like that song was really, really nice.
Yes.
I also listened to it a few times after I watched the movie. And then, but yeah, it really is such a big contrast. And again, I think they had like stuff, like they had like a John Denver poster somewhere on the side.
Yes,
and like they had more sort of 80s and 90s references.
I remember one of the daughters was wearing a Led Zeppelin t-shirt and stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of probably things we missed that other people who grew up in that era could probably point to more, but even us, we probably picked up on a couple of things. Yeah.
Definitely. No, but that song was amazing. And yeah, no, like, I mean, probably we haven't talked too much about the actor who plays Ajaz, who's really good. Subin Sahir. I have to say, this guy has one of the best and widest smiles I've ever seen. You just watch him dancing. He's got the biggest smile on his face.
He's so happy, man. Yeah.
It's so great. And yeah, that's such a great scene. And yeah, you sort of know that it's predictable in some ways.
Yeah.
You know what's going to happen.
I'm pretty bad at picking what's going to happen, but that one I saw from a mile away, I was like, shit's going to go down here.
It definitely didn't make it easier, though. It definitely, that's one that did really hit.
That hits.
But yeah, I think it's a good transition right into sort of the second half, man, and sort of how they sort of go along sort of conspiring. I really enjoyed how this played out, I've got to say, like straight away. Like, I loved how it gradually built into this thing, like one by one by one, like, the dominoes were falling and you can see, like, there's I think it's firstly, Michael gives the theater or the old building.
The building,
for the restaurant, and then it just pisses off Shine Chacko and his brother. I'm just going to call him Shine Chacko. He's not going to get the treatment that he deserves in this. It's my favorite name. But so he gives the building to those guys, and then that's when sort of the first
grievance,
and then you sort of see that later you see like the MP, the politician that's in the group. He sort of was like, okay, he's not going to vote for me. I know somebody.
I know
guy to bring in some guy from Mumbai, which ties in the story a little bit towards the past.
But
how did you like sort of how the pacing was done and how the sort of conspired to sort of take Michael down?
I love that. I thought it was just so well done because, as you're saying, like these small little individual grievances just build up over time, right? And like people want to do something about it, but they never do. And then they start talking to one another about how they're a bit annoyed.
Yes.
And one thing just leads to another. Like, that Father Simon guy, Mammooty's character doesn't support his promotion in the church or something, or doesn't allow him to get that promotion in the Catholic Church. And then he's kicked out of the breakfast table, right? He's like, go and eat by yourself somewhere else.
Yes.
And just like these small little things that are going on, and eventually the plot kind of becomes clear. One aspect of this that I really enjoyed is that so much of this film is set in Michael's house. The characters either live there, they're hanging around there, they're even conspiring under his roof there. And that just adds such like a layer of tension because you're like, dude, the guy's in the other room, like, be careful what you're saying. But just the fact that they all have to live in this space and have to see Michael while being annoyed at him so much, I just thought that ratcheted up the tension one extra level, right? And I also thought it was just a great kind of cinematic tool to set a lot of these dialogue in this one house because they're all kind of confined, and so you can see those dynamics play out a bit more clearly. But just the building up of the tension, and then the idea of bringing in the Rajan character from Mumbai, seeing his grandparents and introducing them, who are also like somewhat hilarious because they're like plotting how to like kill Michael, and they're like these old feeble looking people, but they're so diabolical. They're like, don't chuck him in the river because we want people to see that he's been killed.
Yes.
I was just like, what the hell, man? These guys are brutal, but also I guess their son's been killed by Michael. But look, I think what this film does even better than the conclusion is the build up towards the conclusion. I think that's what makes this like so tense and edge of your seat, and they're able to sustain that for a good 2 hours before you have the release valve and things go crazy, basically. So look, I love that second half of the film. I think the tension was just built up expertly. I didn't feel the 2.5 hour runtime of this film, to be honest.
No, to be honest, to give some context, I started this movie like late on, like, I think a Monday. And I thought I'd watch half of it because, just time. I thought I'd watch half of it and I'd go to sleep, wake up and watch the sort of, the next half the next night or something like that.
Yes.
Didn't happen. I basically was like, I watched it and it got to the point where I think they started to conspire. And I was like, okay, buckle in because, this is going to be a late one.
It's going to hit the fan.
Yeah. I'm not going to move because it was just so... I loved how they sort of played out and how well they sort of did it. Even the introduction of the Rajan character, even though it's probably a bit... He himself doesn't have that much room to do much. But some of the scenes he's in, I think one of my favorites is like, how awkward is it when, the brothers bring him to visit Michael? And
I was just like, are you seriously doing this? Like, and they put like some random business proposition to him?
Yes.
Like so awkward.
Michael's taunting him, saying like, what happened to your father? Oh, he was murdered, wasn't he?
Oh my God, so tense.
Murdered him. So it was just like no letting up, and like it was just enjoyable. Like I really liked it. The build up was absolutely fantastic. I thought it was. You got to see how it sort of kept going.
And
how is Michael going to sort of combat this? And sort of as we sort of to circle back to sort of the I think the real trigger point, the death of Adjust's brother. I mean, pretty similar name to mine. It's just kind of scary. But the way he sort of gets taken down. Yeah, man. Like, that's a point that probably hit me the most emotionally because, in some way, like there is a certain level of predictability in this. Like, someone's going to have to take the fall here, and in a lot of mafia movies, it is sort of a younger sort of character who's not
like someone innocent or naive or something.
Who's probably in too deep and that doesn't really belong in this world, but is there just through association. We see some of them like in an early scene, like there's an early fight scene where I think some of the younger kids are there as well.
Along with I love that.
So there's
Peter, Paul.
It's like all the veterans as well as the kids. So they're in this world of crime, which they can't escape. But when he died, man, like it really did sort of hit me hard. Like I was like, man, that's I felt really bad for him. Like it was
that was a gut punch because
it was like.
Exactly. He'd got the approval to be with the woman he loves. He's opened up his cafe. Like, his brother was happy. Everything was looking great. And then it's just taken away from him in an instant. And you can immediately see the ripple effects it's going to have on Ajas, on Rachel, his girlfriend. Like, that's going to be the trigger point for everything that's going to happen and the escalations that will happen. But again, it's just, you had so many characters and they were all fleshed out such that when this happened, it feels like a gut punch. It's not just, even if it's predictable, it hurt.
Correct. Yeah, that's what I love about this. Like, even though, like, we've seen, like, I guess they're not recent mafia movies, but they've been done a billion times.
100%.
And, death is very common in them, but this one was done especially well. I don't know, maybe it was just that, like, it really got to a real peak with the song. You got to see, like, them coming together. And even though while watching the song, I even wrote down he's going to die. I wrote down someone's going to die. Him or his brother, but probably him. And when that happened, it was just like, oh no, like it just felt terrible. And then it sort of led to some more sort of story building, I think, with the exploration of Ajas's character. I think if I was to be a little bit critical about this movie, that's one that I felt. It's kind of just sprinkled in towards the end. Oh, Ajas, by the way, is also crazy. He's also a wild one, so watch out. And it's kind of like, it's kind of sudden.
Because there's nothing that would suggest that he's this awesome fighter guy, right? Because he's like a store clerk. He's cooking for his wife. He seems just like a nervous guy because he's concerned about his brother. And out of nowhere, he goes up and beats the crap out of Shine Chacko and Peter and Paul, right? So it's escalates.
I think they could have done. If they could have done something a little bit like just to reference another Indian movie that we watched. I really liked in Vikram. The role of the I think you probably don't want to talk about the role of the maid. When something drops and turns out she's a secret agent.
But it's hinted to, at least in that movie, right?
Correct.
Like she catches a falling glass or something. Yeah.
Exactly right. In this, there's no sort of there's nothing to show us that he's actually no foreshadowing. Exactly right, to show us that he's actually crazy. So that's one thing that I think they could have done a little bit better. We can probably move along to the conclusion of the movie and the climax. Were you a fan of how this movie ended, or what did you think?
Yeah, look, this is probably where I thought the movie fell short, in my view, and I'd be interested to get your thoughts. But I just thought these villains or the conspirators, they were in way over their head trying to take down Michael. Like, it just never seemed like a fair fight at all. Like, as soon as Michael had enough evidence that, Martin and the Chacko character had killed Army, it basically was just him picking off each of them one by one. Like, the politician's done in like 30 seconds after some evidence is revealed against him. The police guy, Martin, is run over in a truck anticlimactically. Again, takes like 20 seconds to happen. Yeah. Like, every character is taken down so quickly that it felt like a bit of an anticlimax, I guess. I would have liked something a bit more complex instead of Michael lying in bed being like, all right, time to take him out. Time to take him out, right? it all happened so quickly that I just felt like it didn't, I think, reach the heights. The tension built it up so much and was done so well that like the ending didn't quite deliver in terms of like a release valve and giving an ending that was really memorable to me. So I don't know. I just saw the ending coming a mile away and I just wished it was a bit more. I wish the villains were a bit smarter, to be honest. Like, these guys just had no idea what they were in for. Like, Michael is more intelligent, got more connections. He's more physically strong than all of them, and he's more experienced. And he'll do whatever it takes to like get his revenge or take care of business and look after the family. These guys, once he figured it out, there was no contest.
No, I do agree mostly with that. Like, I did think it was like, they did build up how powerful Michael is, and that's sort of is a further expression of that. He's so powerful that he can take you down at any time, but he's decided not to, out of his own goodwill. I guess. Like, he ends up, I don't know if he planned on murdering everybody.
No.
Oh, he gets some in jail and he murdered some of them. But he gets Adjust to be like his hammer. Go and take people out. I did like that transfer. Like, the transfer of sort of the power to Adjust, because he's like the most worthy. But there was like, who else was it going to be? Like, there was no one else really even contention, because everyone else was against him. Adjust and just the female characters mostly that were around. So there wasn't no one else really to do that. But it did feel a little anticlimactic. You are right about that. Like, I do sort of wish the action scene before that, when he almost dies, was okay, I thought this is a good start. What now?
Yes.
But then it sort of just becomes like, it kind of tails off and becomes like,
100%. Like that action scene you're talking about under the garage where Rajan's crew kind of assaults the Mammootty character. It builds up Rajan as this really influential guy, but that's really the only time you see him being a real boss or like being in control. You never see him fight. And it's one of the things I feel like with action sequences, I'm just like thinking out loud. Sometimes rather than having, a million people fight the main character, if you just had one really bad guy have an intense fight with the main character, like that can show his power a little bit more. Like even that back and forth when Mammootty is talking to him and Shine Chacko about the hotel business, like that showed the power dynamics so much more and just how powerful Michael is, so much more than all the action. But I just feel like maybe they could have done more with the Rajan character and shown him to be a bit more of a threat than what he actually was. But he was a young kid who thought highly of himself, but Michael's this experienced guy who knows how to take care of business. So
and even his downfall is kind of like, okay.
Yeah. I didn't entirely understand it, to be honest, but like his crew turned on him.
Yeah, all I understood was that Michael is so powerful that he has connections above Rajan in Mumbai itself.
Yes.
And he was able to, pull the strings even more throughout that, because Rajan doesn't know how much influence Michael actually has.
Yes.
Or the, the family actually has, even where he is, But I did find it pretty dark and kind of funny how he says something at the end. Michael, he says something like, "I didn't want to kill the father and the son," but
it's like brutal, man. Michael has so many baller lines. At one point in the movie, he says something like, "I will choose when I wish to die."
Yeah.
And I was just like, dude, that is a great line. If you want to show what a boss you are, like, I will choose the time at which I die.
Yeah.
And when he tells him to get out in Hindi.
Yes, I like that.
I was just like, oh man, this guy is really like rubbing his face in this. Yeah, I mean, this guy's footage.
I mean, this trying to pick apart what makes Mammootty so great, and I think just there's small little things like that. Like obviously, he's not writing his own script, but the delivery is obviously a huge part of
100%,
what he's doing.
Yes,
and he nails it completely. But yeah, some of this you're right. I think his screen time in this is a little bit less than it is in Rorschach.
Yeah,
he's required to do less because it's more ensemble in this than Rorschach was.
Yes,
but whenever he's there, he makes the most of it. So from the start to the end, like the sort of last lines he delivers, a testament to him because I think he, even though the climax is not as good as we probably both wanted it to be, he still is able to pull off his role so well that it still makes it watchable.
I mean, I remember one of the action sequence when they're rescuing Martin and the whole family's there beating the guys up. Like Mammootty beats up a few people and then he adjusts his watch and then starts beating up more people as well. I'm like, dude, you are just like so in command of this situation, not breaking a sweat, basically. It was ultimate boss. Yeah. He's my favorite so far, man.
Yeah, no, he's pretty high up there for me. Only competition is Shine Chacko.
Look, that guy is on another level. I'm not sure if it's a higher level or less, but he's on another level.
No. I think Shine Chacko, I've got to give a love to Reno Thomas from the movies we've seen with him.
Oh yeah, of course. Also
amazing. But I think I think Mammootty's on a whole different stratosphere in terms of his status. Like he's so huge. He's a big guy as well, but like he's also his reputation and what he's done. It's huge. But,
and not like phoning it in at the age of 71, right? Just like being on screen for the sake of it to make money. His heart is in these roles. Like Rorschach was pretty different and pretty weird role to take on when I'm not sure what he is normally, if he's an action hero or whatever, but he's not a purely action hero in this. He's basically just a mafioso guy sitting behind a desk ordering stuff to happen. He fights, which is also great, but he's got diversity of roles here, and just he has range.
Correct. Speaking of the fighting, I want to talk a little bit about some of the action sequences and stuff like that. Like, what do you sort of think of them? I was okay about them. I thought they were.
Yeah.
As I think you brought up the good point that they were not sort of the highlight of the film.
Yeah.
One thing I would. What are your opinion on this? I was going to think, like, I would like to see more variety in sort of Malayalam fight scenes because I'm feeling like they're a little bit repetitive.
Yeah.
This is my initial opinion from what I'm seeing. Like, obviously, I think the most visceral was Talumala. That was like mind blowing. They did that excellently. But I think like a lot of these fight scenes look very similar to the scenes that we saw in Rorschach. And I'll say it again: old man Liam Neeson fighting style. Like, maybe I should rename it to Old Man Mammootty.
He takes the cake now.
Because, I think he does one action where he runs, and the rest is just people flying at him.
And he's just like chopping them down.
He does it well. Like his hand-to-hand is pretty good. He's able to deflect and it's obviously no stunt double. At least I don't think there is. It looks like it's just him. But what do you think about some of the action sequences, and also like what were your sort of favorite scenes in this movie overall?
I think on the action sequences, it's not a highlight of the film for me. I feel the action sequences are pretty generic in a way, and you compare it to Talumala, RRR, the creativity in those action sequences. There's none of that here. And I think you put that down to the fact your main actor is a 71-year-old. He can't be like doing insane things, and you can't suspend the audience's belief too much, right? You can't be flying around because that will just take you out of the film. So there's like a limit to what you could do. And I think within the confines of that, they did a good job such that I wasn't thinking too much about the action. I was like, mostly what I was thinking was, Mammootty looks cool. He's being a boss.
Yeah.
and I think they accomplished that really well. Yeah, it doesn't do a whole lot more for me. I mean, even the underground car fight scene is probably the one that I suspended my disbelief a little bit, because he basically takes down like a couple of dozen people while getting stabbed and slashed. But, I let that go because, maybe the audience loves that. They want to see him kick ass and like take on everyone. So willing to forgive that. I think one of the things that I thought was overused was like the slowing down and fastening up in action sequences. They slowed down a lot. They fastened up at other points. Maybe that's because you can't have Mammooty doing a one long unbroken action sequence, right? So you have to kind of extend the scene a little bit through slow motion, and maybe there's a practical element to that maybe. But I felt like that technique was overused a little bit. But look, overall, I thought the action sequences were passable, and it never took me out of the film. I thought they were pretty good. In fact, I actually liked one of the elements of the first fight scene when they're saving that Martin character and the whole family's there. I like seeing the kids being there with the Mammooty character, because you get to see, okay, they're all in this together. It is a family business, and they are all part of the shady aspects of this as well. And actually, I do also like the fact that Mammooty was in these action sequences and not just kind of giving instructions from behind a desk, because the whole point is like he's built up as this fearsome character. And one of the brothers, I think Chacko's father, essentially talks about how scary Mammooty was when he killed the guys who killed his brother, the oldest brother. And so there's this fearsome kind of aura about Mammooty, and I think you can only really get a sense of that if you see him fighting. So I like the fact that he's this guy who does the dirty work himself as well. I think that adds a great quality to his character and makes the fearsomeness and the fact that people are scared and respect him far more believable. So I think having him in those action sequences was important, but it also probably meant that you couldn't be as creative as if you just had Shine Chacko and, a bunch of young guys running around. So it's probably action sequences are fine. It didn't do too much for me. Probably not the best part of this film. Favorite scenes, man. There are so many, from Shine Chacko showing the man how to dance to what was it, the dance sequence and the song before Army's death. That was really great as well. There's some beautiful shots like of a car driving through this narrow strip of land as well. But the rickshaw, maybe at the very start of the film, some beautiful shots there. But just so many great scenes. Any scenes where people are like waiting downstairs, conspiring quietly in the corner, all just like the tension was so palpable throughout this film. Like so many great character interactions.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of, I think I agree with you with you brought up some good points about the action stuff, because they are sort of limited with Mammooty's age and stuff like that, and with respect to him for he's definitely putting his all into this. I'm not
totally
put any shade on him at all. And you're right, like I'm glad that they put him in, because it's all good and well to talk about. It's one of the flaws of Rajan's character, right? Like he's just built up to exposition and talk that he's this badass, but like we never actually see anything.
You never see it,
that he does. In fact, the one scene that he's involved in a fight and he gets shot without even moving. Good on them for having him in multiple fight scenes, right? He's in a few of them, as well as calling the shot. So give us a nice overall picture of how menacing he is and he can be. Both physically and what he can do with phone calls and stuff like that. So, it's pretty. It'd be interesting to see how they sort of, flesh that sort of genre out. If he's going to be in action movies, like, are they going to do anything else? Because I think it might get a little bit. People are going to start to predict it. At least for me, if I see another Mammooty movie that comes out and it's the same thing, I'll be able to pick it up. Look, we've only seen like 2 movies.
That's right.
So maybe we're not seeing the full picture. And it's just been coincidence. Favorite scenes. Look, I think the most memorable would be probably the dance scene of Shine Chacko. That scene took me, blew my mind a little bit. I did also like how Shine Chacko Peter, the character, like there's like one scene when he's so upset with Michael, and he's talking about he's talking so badly about him, and I think his brother says something like like you got a lot of liquid courage, and like he walks past, Michael does, and he goes completely silent, and his father says something like, "Did you piss your pants?" Like He's like that. He's
so
so
good.
scared. He's so scared of him, but he's so angry with him at the same time. It's like a brat. Like
yes,
he plays it perfectly. I think it's yeah. There's a lot of really good scenes in this, and there's a lot I'm going to remember from especially doing the build up and the characters. Yeah,
I mean, even the like romance between Ami and Rachel, like somehow that felt legit to me, even though it was kind of just in one part of the movie and not kind of explored earlier or whatever. I thought that was in a short amount of time they're able to make you invested in that relationship and show how much they cared for each other quite well.
Yeah.
So there's just like how this director is able to do so much, even without dialogue, and even sometimes not without a whole lot of screen time. It's impressive, man. Like real props for the character building without needing a whole lot of time in dialogue.
No, exactly. There's one more scene I thought of. Speaking of Ami, I think at the start that scene cracked me up. Yeah. So he gets he got the helmet and he just smashes the guy.
I love it.
But then to follow up on that, like he comes home and he's all like cocky and happy, and then like I think his brother tells him, "Hey, Mark wants to speak to you." His whole demeanor just completely shifts.
Changes.
He's just so scared and worried about what have I done here? It's going to cost me. And he goes to visit him. He's worried the whole time, and then he says,
he's like,
"What are you talking about? I don't give a shit.
I know what you're talking about, man."
Yeah. That was a real great touch, but it was great because it establishes like how powerful Michael is and how revered he is, how both scary and admired he is in the same sort of sequence.
Yes. Talking about that family scene, man, like even the Fatima character, the mother of Ami and Ajas, I think like even her position in the family, because there's something about her being Muslim and that being an issue for the rest of the Anjootti family. She's a bit of an outsider, but Michael really likes her because she's the husband of his first eldest brother. But I think you're able to understand her position in the family and empathize with her quite a lot. Like that side of the family is walking a really fine line because they are Muslim. The rest of the family kind of like sees them as outsiders, and as they get more prominence in the family, that upsets everyone else. So just understanding even the dynamic of that household in comparison to the rest of the Anjootti family, also done really well, man, and you can really empathize with them so well. So another bit of excellent character development just right there.
A lot to like about this movie, man. I think we've covered it pretty well, man. Like, I don't know if they're going to do anything in the future with this because they've just built on so much. Don't know if we want to go into too much, but like, I don't know if they, because there's just, like they spend so much time building character to this.
Yes.
I wonder if they're going to do anything else. Just because, like, now we know, like, things have been established, right? Like, and now you can even, like, adjust,
has taken over.
New leader with Mammootty almost as cameoing in the next movie or something like that. And bring in another bad guy. Hopefully, maybe tell it from that perspective. Maybe.
I would be down for that. And you're right. They've invested so much in a lot of these characters that, I think the audience would be along for the journey if they wanted to expand this world. That would be an amazing world to return to, I reckon.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, like, I think some bit of trivia-ish kind of thing. I think from what I was reading before about this, the influences were obviously from The Godfather. That was one. But apparently also the Mahabharata. So, like, that was actually, like, because, we talked a little bit offline, a little bit about the names of these movies, and, like, we don't really know, like, Rorschach also, I don't really know why it was, like, I know what Rorschach is. It's that, like, design or that psychological testing thing. But in this one, so it looks like it's taken from the Mahabharata. Like, there's a book called Bheeshma Parvam. So I think there's some influence of that with the story.
Okay.
And I think there's some, I was reading, like, some of the characters sort of emulate some people in the stories. Like, there's two brothers in those stories, like Peter and Paul, who go against the family.
Right.
Stuff like that.
Yes. Yeah. It'd be great to know more because, like, some of these names do sound familiar to me, like Bheeshma as a character in the Mahabharata, but who is that meant to be Michael in this, or is it is there a direct comparison, or is it more about the story there is comparable to Michael's story or whatever? So, great to know.
That's great to know. It's like, obviously they put a lot of thought into these movies, the writing, and there's clear influences which are very rooted in culture. You know, like they could have easily made this just a straight up, gangster flick. In some ways, it is, but the source material is obviously close to home. What they've done, which makes me really appreciate it even more because it's not just another
100%.
knockoff or something like that. Like there's something personal and something close to the home of this country. So amazing stuff, man. I think we can move on to the good old fashioned D scale of ours.
Classic.
What did you think about this movie, man? Where does it sit on your D scale?
I reckon this is straight dynamite in my books, man. I had an absolute blast with this film. This is just a beautiful film to watch. Above all, it's just a lot of fun. It is tense. It will keep you interested the entire time. As I said before, like you don't feel the 2.5 hour runtime in this film because there's just so much going on. It's so edge of your seat, action packed, as well as like great dialogue between the characters. So much going on, so many character relationships to understand and unpack. And Mammooty just being a badass. I absolutely love that. So look, I think no one is going to be disappointed going in and watching this film. There's a lot to love here. It's not about the action is probably what I would say. I'd say it's more about the characters and their relationships with one another. So it's not so much an action film in my book, so much as an examination of a family and their dynamics. And just, I had so much fun with this and everything was great from the movie, from the music. The acting is just first rate. I couldn't tell you a bad performance in this film. Everyone just hit it out of the park in my view. And direction was amazing. Cinematography was great. I wholeheartedly recommend this.
Yeah, very, very, very similar remarks, man. Like I am a little bit, this movie could have actually been a dope. I think if they had nailed that ending,
the landing,
this could have been really, really special. And not saying it's not, it's a fantastic movie and I'd definitely recommend it. And it's almost better on a second watch. I feel if you can sort of get through that second part again. But it's definitely all the things you said about it. There's so much to like about this. And there's really not much to fault except for probably the ending just doesn't fall as well as you want. But it's completely enjoyable. Like just the experience of watching this movie is great. And like there's just so many good things that they do. I think Shine Cracker's performance, as well as Justice's performance, like really helped to sort of make this even more dynamic.
Yes.
Like Mammootty is so good on his own, but when you have an extra bit here or there, it just adds to this. Like, okay, wow. So there's also this, and there's also this, as well as Mammootty just carrying you forward.
Yes,
fantastic movie. Definitely a straight up dynamite. A huge fan of Mammootty. We'll be looking out to do more of his movies, definitely, because just enjoy him. Like he's great. He's really, really great.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, I think that will do it for us on this podcast. Thanks a lot for listening, everyone. If you listen to this all the way through, make sure to subscribe. Everything's helping. We're looking to do a lot more Malayalam movies, a lot more Indian movies. Give us suggestions. Let us know what you thought about the movie. Did we miss something? All that good stuff. But
awesome, guys.
Until next time, Sonny, man. We'll catch you soon.
It's been awesome. Until next time, man.
That's up, man.